So we're going to call the meeting to order, and
Roll call?
yeah, let's do the roll call.
Commissioner Kichi,
Yes.
Commissioner Tassinari,
Here.
Commissioner Merritt,
Here.
Commissioner Gathawa,
Here.
and Commissioner Dillard.
Here.
Okay, so item number 2, the reading of the Native American Land Acknowledgement. We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of the Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sauk, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here.
Did you see the agendas?
The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work towards equity, restoration, and reparations. So item number 3. Is there any public comment on items not currently on the agenda? Is there anyone online? No?
No.
Anyone here? Okay. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from November 7th, 2024, which are included in the handout.
We need a motion.
Yeah, any comments, corrections, suggestions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to move approval?
Seconded.
Who did the motion?
Yeah, I needed a motion, so we need someone to start it. So
I wasn't there, so I.
It doesn't
okay.
matter.
I
You're
wasn't
just,
there
you're just
either. Okay.
attesting
Then I'll-
to that they
I-
appear to be accurate. It's not that you have to swear to the truth that's contained
Right,
within them.
Okay,
so.
then I move.
And it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, now we're to the meat of the agenda. Actions for phases 3 and 4. The central issue before us is the nature of the final report to City Council. In the last meeting, we discussed various options and came to the conclusion that we were going to attempt to hire an outside person to help us write the report. And we've since gotten information back that that person, if they will agree to do it, would require 2 months to do it, which would push us outside of the window of our charge, since we effectively are done December 31st. So the issue before us is to discuss how we resolve this issue. Chastity, does that seem a fair summary?
Yes.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I heard you say after our charge, which is okay because reports are usually done after work is done, not as part of the work or within the, okay, they can start, but the majority of the time, they get done after the work.
I think that's true, but just so I'm clear, I thought
Yeah.
within our charge, we were to have a final report to them before the 31st. So if in order to extend it beyond the 31st, we have to get approval from City Council.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I have a quick question for you, Stephanie. Okay, so with the holidays right now and the limited number of probably sessions at the city council, if we go on and approve an extension, when would be the earliest that the city council would be able to approve our recommendation for extending?
December 10th.
December 10th, okay. So then after that is when the discussions
They don't have any
for.
other meetings. That's their only meeting in December.
What's that?
That's their only meeting in December.
No, I was saying, so let's say December 10th, then after that will be the discussions with the entity for the contracts and all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to figure out a timing of getting the contract signed with the city and actions of how long we should be thinking of the extension.
Right. I mean, I'm sort of thinking that we need to do some of this in parallel. So I would think we would do is if the committee, we said, look, we want to go with, we're still committed to going with this individual if they're still willing to do this. They're not going to sign the contract yet, but we want to be sure that they're on board, ready to do this once they get the contract. And then we would, at the end of this meeting, forward a request to City Council for the extension to something like April 1st in order to get the final report to them.
Yeah, the part that I was concerned about is because we know like how long sometimes with getting the contract to the point of when it's signed. And I was thinking of December 10th is when the City Council will be voting on it. However long it takes for the contract negotiations. And so then once the contract's signed, yes, they'll be ready to get going. I just want to make sure that if we say April 1st, that actually is going to be enough time to accommodate for getting the contract signed and getting them started.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, oh, I'm sorry, Chastity has her hand up. Yes, sorry.
It's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say this is one of the things I was a little concerned about in the last couple of meetings, just not having enough time. And if anything, this feels to me like a blessing in disguise because this is an important document that needs to get done. So I would actually say that we should request June 1st.
Thank you.
As our timeline, just to give us enough time, just in case. And we were already pushing it with a month, 2 months even. So I think that if we're just working on a report, we don't have to meet that often. It's really just going to be check-ins at a meeting or outside of a meeting. We should be able to, extend it to make sure that we're able to give them the right product and not a rushed product. And that's my opinion on this. I yield.
Thanks.
And I wanted to answer Commissioner Merritt's question where you are asking whether we are sure about the person writing the report.
No, that's not what I was asking.
Okay,
No,
okay. I misheard. I misheard.
No, my question had to do with, because if we were talking about April 1st, I wasn't comfortable that was going to be necessarily enough time to ask for an extension. That I was thinking more. So I'm on board with Chastity saying June 1st.
Okay.
Then I'd feel comfortable with the time of getting the contract signed and getting them worked with the report and then getting the report done.
The one thing I wanted to bring up is that this is a request to the City Council. So the City Council could on December 10th say no. And then do we have a backup plan?
Oh.
Thank you. I hadn't even tried to. Yeah.
Yes, Chastity, go ahead.
Sorry, I would say if they don't give us the request, then we just write the truth. We were unable to complete because a lack of time.
Okay.
Or we hand over what we have,
Right.
and then they'll have to deal with whatever it is at that point.
Right. So
Because it's not like we have nothing. So, but it will definitely not be to the same quality that we would want if we can get the extension.
right. One thing that Chastity had requested of us in the last meeting is that we should start writing down the kinds of things we would like to see in the report. And so I'm thinking we should still be trying to do that. So if December 10th comes around and we get the extension, that'll then be material we can hand over to the report writer. If for some reason the City Council says no, we still have something that we could massage into giving them what we have.
So in
I
December.
will add to that, if we are able to just go back to the recordings that are available, just to refresh ourselves on what we have been doing. Yeah, the commission has been doing.
Right.
And with December 10th, so we'll have a meeting before December 10th, the December 5th date. Then we'll have the 19th. So if the 10th ends up not working like we like, at least we do have a meeting after that we can,
Try to put
you know,
something together.
do some magic. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I also think that if they happen to say no, they should give us an option. What do they want? We will tell them where we have reached in terms of fact-finding, healing events, and all kind of things. So we have the raw material. So they will also have to give us a reason why they believe that what we are working hard towards does not need that additional time. And then they can also tell us what is costing the city commission if the project is delayed, but because we are interested in quality work, what we were mandated to do. So they will have to explain to us the mandate. We are not costing a lot of money. I think that what we are costing them at the moment is the time and the electricity here, and it is our time, and the building. So I think it is important that the commission has already seen the need for extension, and the extension is something that we had signaled. We have been signaling that to the city council for almost the last 6 months, that we might need that. And that was because we were not given a report writer that was working on things as we were moving on other things. So we have had trouble getting a report writer. Fortunately, we got somebody who's willing to work with us. So I think what we are discussing about the extension is important. I think we need a motion as a commission to have a resolution and send it to the city council. Yeah.
I just want to piggyback on Commissioner Kiche's remark that I'm assuming some of us will be at the meeting where this will be an item on the agenda. So we will be part of that discussion by council.
Yes, let me ask Stephanie, can I ask, in terms of if we go ahead and pass a motion to request city council for an extension, and it gets we have time now for it to be put on their agenda, is that something, do we have to do anything special to that to allow us to be present to speak on it, or?
No.
No, okay.
And will it be part of the first part or the second part of?
It would be part of a formal meeting.
Part of the form, okay.
I mean, they could discuss it at a work session, but if they take action on it, it would have to be at a formal meeting.
Okay, I just wasn't sure it was
Yeah,
the
I
early
get
part,
it, yeah.
later part, okay.
Yep.
See, as long as health-wise is fine, I'll definitely be there.
Well, then, is it the case that we're all sort of in agreement that June 1st is a good date to put on it for the time? Amos, does that work for you?
Yes, I support that proposal. That date will really give us time to discuss among ourselves in small groups, go back to I was just like one of the commissioners just mentioned. If you try to go to the videos back, watch that, you see the kind of discussions we were having. If we rush this thing, a lot of that effort that we made earlier on in the discussions, in the training, will be lost. And that it is important that that is not lost. I have looked at other commission reports, the South African one, the Canadian one, and some local USA ones. Those discussions that the commissioners struggle with are important part of the report. They cannot be lost because they will inform another body in the future that, okay, this commission was struggling with this, so it makes us do things better next time. If such discussions, struggles, and challenges are not well put in because of lack of time, then I think the community will think that we have wasted not really wasted. We did not make good use of the resource they gave us to work with. So I believe June 1st is very, very important for us to be able at least cover as much as we can.
So Chastity, can I ask, is June 1st also a reasonable time in your mind?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think June 1st is like bare minimum time frame. I think it's important that we give ourselves if we finish before June 1st, then that's great. But if we think that we will be running up to June 1st, then we need to think about that. Is all I would ponder on right now. So what I'm saying is, if we all believe that it's enough time to get everything completed to the best of its abilities without feeling like we're going to be rushed, then yes. If we feel like we need to have as much time as possible to have the most excellent finished product, then we need to really think about how long it takes to get things done.
Because we're not going to want to go past June 30th because that goes into another fiscal year.
No.
Right. And I think if the report writer that we're considering, if their estimate of the time needed to come up with something is 2 months, then I think June 1st gives us a fair amount of wiggle room to try to play with that, work with that.
I agree.
If I would also want to know if the 2-month timeline was posed because we originally offered a 1-month timeline, and 2 months might seem like bare minimum for this person as well. It would be worth exploring what would be ideal.
So how would you propose we explore what would be ideal? I mean, given our current time crunch right now, I mean, I think we have to make some guesstimates.
So what I'm saying, I'm sorry, what I'm saying is that if we get the extension, then if Francis needs more than 2 months within that June 1st or June 30th timeline, then that should be fine. I guess I'm thinking a lot of things. I don't want us to get tied to a contract as we were before that's based on time, because if he says he needs 2 months, but he finds out he needs 3 months, and we have extra time, I just want to make sure we can do that. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah. But I think that, I mean, even we're saying June 1st, that's already giving more than 2 months, making the assumption that that the contract's going to get signed. Let's say, you can say by January. If it's signed by January, that gives them till March if they're doing the 2-month requirement based off what they already said. And if we're giving an additional April, May, and then I think we are giving the wiggle room if they're going to be based off the 2 months that they had said. I think that'd be fine.
Right, and I think if I'm following some of what you're concerned about, Chastity, when we write the contract, we don't want it to say, this is for 2 months, and then we're done. We want to say it's to complete a project, and there are going to be some deliverable dates, but there has to be a bit of flexibility in it. If it takes a little bit longer than that, we're okay with that. But it's not just going to, it starts this date, it ends this date, and then if they're halfway through it, well, sorry, they're only halfway through it.
Well, we're just giving the extension for the TRC.
Right.
To provide it by June 1st. The timeline within the contract, that's totally different language that is probably based between the attorney and whatever else, but.
Right. We're just trying to say, we want to be sure that the individual knows they're working with us. We need to have a final project. And it's how much time it takes is a bit flexible. Chastity, go ahead.
So I'd like to say, just for the most wiggle room, I'd like to say the date should be June 30th, with anticipation of finishing beforehand, but just in case.
Okay, are there any objections to June 30th as a date?
So if I'm getting this right, are we having the date of June 1st, 30th on his contract?
No, it's not,
No.
not the contract with Francis, but it's for the extension of the TRC. Because our deadline was December 31st, that we were going to be generating the report and being done.
Oh.
So we're not, now we're asking for an extension of TRC to provide the report by then. The terms of the contract with the entity that's different. That's not what we're not going to set what the timeline is for the contract,
Oh,
the scope of work of the contract. We're just talking about the TRC providing the report.
so Stephanie, what languages, if I may ask, is going to be in that contract as far as timeline for Franklin?
Well, I think you could either decide tonight, or you may wait to see what the council decides, and then you would have to have a conversation like you did at your last meeting, where you talk about when you want a draft and when you want a final and things of that nature. So
All right.
I'm not sure if today's the meeting to do that at. You certainly can, but
Because we could feasibly, if the 10th goes the way we are expecting it to go is positive, then the very next meeting, we can do those benchmarks of when to have certain things, and then
Exactly.
give that to the attorney to discuss with them to drafting the contract.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes good sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then it seems like we're sort of ready for a motion. I don't know if I can sort of put it together. So, motion is to make a request to City Council to allow the TRC to continue to work on the final report with a delivery date no later than June 30th of 2025.
Are you proposing
Yes,
or wording it for us?
Yes.
Okay, seconded.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 6-0.
And thank you, Chastity, for helping us avoid putting ourselves in a crunch, in a corner.
Okay. Well, that was quick. So we can move on to item number 6.
Oh, before we move.
Is there anything
on-
else with 5?
We are still on 5, on D, where
Oh,
we
D.
have other.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask my fellow commissioners whether Catholic worker can come back and do a presentation. Right now, where we are in our country, since after elections, and it's also affecting internationally. A lot of states, and I could name California and Illinois, and advocacy groups and organizations and immigration lawyers are taking action on stopping mass deportations. So I wanted to ask my fellow commissioners whether we would have Catholic worker come make a presentation of what they are doing in our city, what action them and other interested members of our community, our county, and in our state to come and make this presentation on titled Stop Mass Deportations. They are already doing it in various, they're already doing it around our communities. So I wondered whether, just to ask, can we have them on our agenda during our next meeting? And I went ahead and told them I will make this request, and they said that is okay.
Do you know what, in terms of the presentation, is it a 15-minute, a 30-minute, an hour presentation? Is it?
The one because I attended on Friday, they had one at the Walker House, and it took about an hour because it took everybody in the room, and there was maybe 100 people introducing themselves and also saying what they do and why they would want to be part of this, and what they can contribute professionally and otherwise. So that took a big chunk of time.
Right.
So I'm
you-
sort of thinking between 30 and 60 minutes.
So you're thinking like at the December 5th meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we've always worked with them and supported them.
Right. I mean, I think that sounds like a great idea. I just want to be sure we have enough time to do the other things that we need to do in terms of the contract, because that's going to be,
I mean, I don't know how, you're thinking of working just in, you're talking about on that first meeting, working just in case that the 10th doesn't go.
right, or even if, I'm saying maybe in two parallel tracks, we want to just be prepared for if it doesn't go, what are we doing? And if it does go, can we come to some agreement on some things, preliminary agreement, so that when the next meeting comes up, we're just set to go and we can move forward, just so we don't delay it anymore. That's all I was thinking. But I think that if this, and I'm not going to say anymore. Chastity, go ahead. You have your hand up.
I just have questions. Just moving forward, especially with what Commissioner Tassinari is saying, like making sure that we're getting the stuff we need to get done in the meeting done, not prolonging meetings, and just thinking about what's the end goal of having presentations, especially this late in the game for our commission. Are we hoping to have a presentation like this so that we can add the information into the end report, or is it just to give space for people, organizations to communicate? I just want to make sure that we're clear what the purpose of furthering presentations as we move forward, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I would definitely prefer any presentation to be 30 minutes or less. So if that would be possible to be communicated with any, for any person, organization in the future, I think that would be really helpful to streamline our meetings. So just some thoughts.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I brought it to the whole commission. And also because it's part of the commission's work on ratio equity. And they can, that part I talked about that made the other presentation long, it isn't going to be part of their presentation. So they can do a 30-minute presentation.
But are you also thinking that it's something that you want, that it potentially be included in the final report kind of thing, or is it just something
No,
as an
it
awareness?
is part of this. It's part of the commission's work on ratio equity. So, and it is going to be, if they present, it's part of the record of the commission's work. So when we go looking and getting the nuggets that are going to be in the report, it is part of that. I don't know whether I answered the question.
And 30 minutes would include the presentation and questions and answers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I also wanted to add that such a discussion is germane to our work. Deportation usually involves family separations. And while we might have not have had time to collect information on who among the Iowa City's kids, younger ones, whose families have been separated due to deportation, to know the extent of the problem in here, those families and those households whom their parents or a member of the household whom is not a U.S. citizen, they are scared to death. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The members of the family are American citizens. You separate the family, that means you are subjecting them to injustice, you are subjecting them to poor health, poor education, suffering, long-term mental health, which is going to affect them throughout their lives in the U.S. They are going to be mad with their parents. They are going to be mad with the government or whoever has decided to take away their mother or their father from them because their father is not a legal citizen. This lives with them for the rest of their lives. It's a long-term trauma that you cannot see very well, but ask somebody. We have not had enough time to get evidence or testimonies of those kind of things. But these are policies that we need to be aware of, either locally or nationally, federally. And as a commission, we have to speak to that because the commission is set up to deal with what affects American citizens. And the American children are American citizens. They will face injustice. I can't say it anymore. I usually talk better when I have evidence and data. We have not had time to look at that because we did not face that threat that required that collection of data or research. But we have data, census data on mixed family households, even here in Iowa City, everywhere we can collect that. So we can tell the potential of that happening. Even on that day, there could be some parents there, those who will be coming here, who can tell you they have American citizens, but maybe they are not. So I think it's important we discuss that, at least for prevention purposes. Maybe somebody can have a better heart to help those American kids. And sometimes they're not kids, sometimes they're youth. Yeah. So I think it's important we have that discussion. Sorry, I took too long to talk about that, but it's something that's very, very important.
And sadly, a lot of times, the main identifier that is used is the skin color. You're not white, so you don't belong. And already, some immigrants in our city have received threatening messages, and this one, Commissioner Kiche, you're talking about not talking without evidence. Right now, the police is handling one such threatening message in our city where somebody was called at work. So the workplace and our Iowa City Police Department is looking into that threatening messages and doing the investigation. So it is something that is here in our community, especially knowing that even in our state already, July 1, there was a law that was supposed to go into effect of deporting immigrants from the state of Iowa. It's on pause because of the work by advocacy groups, and I'm not a lawyer, but so it is real, and it's in our state and in our city, and because I said the main identifier, if you're being stopped and being asked for citizenship papers, the skin color profile, they will leave a white-skinned person because they are profiled as they cannot be not a USA citizen, but somebody of a different color will be profiled. Whether they are born here or naturalized, they will be there a lot of times, and that's documented. They're more likely to be stopped and asked for their citizenship papers. So.
And just as a reminder, this will be on the agenda for, talking about stuff that's relevant to your work for your next meeting, I think is okay. But this is like becoming a whole total different conversation.
Chastity, do you think, so if we, from the meeting on the 5th, after our usual opening things, we have the 30-minute segment for the presentation, and then after that, the rest of the meeting, we, in preparation for what we're going to be doing with the report, does that suffice for you?
Sounds good to me.
I think also when you're talking about just looking at the report, it's as Commissioner Tassinari mentioned, and Chair Dillard, the recommendations are kind of also a big part of that report. And so kind of thinking about at what point you're going to kind of decide what those things are and talk about them as a board.
Right.
Because that would influence the author's work too. So,
Yeah, so we're figuring what little bit then time then on the 5th, and then the meeting after the 10th.
Right.
Depending on how the outcome of the 10th. But either way, that second meeting, we'll be able to dive more into the details of that
Right.
part.
Okay, so I think we're all.
And actually,
Go ahead, Chastity.
sorry. Thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that up. We really do need to dive into what exactly our recommendations are, and we should definitely have a deep conversation next meeting in anticipation that if we don't get an extension from City Council. With that being said, it might mean that we would need to postpone any other presentations until the 19th to make sure we have enough time to make that discussion.
So you're thinking maybe
Because
having the presentation then on the 19th and not on the 5th?
Yes, I think we should use our next meeting to really dive in and have and come to at least some loose conclusions of what we all collectively agree on should be our recommendations. So yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that back to my attention. Yeah, I think we really we haven't really sat down and talked about that as we're preparing to work with Franklin, but we do need to have that discussion as a whole.
Okay.
Would that work to have the presentation on the 19th, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So we're all in agreement, presentation is a good thing, shooting for 30 minutes, and if they can do it on the 19th, that would be the preferred date. And on the 5th, we're going to focus on getting all our
Recommendations
ducks in a
and-
row to be able to be prepared for whatever outcome happens at the city council meeting.
I'm okay with that.
All right?
So I want to be clear. So on the 5th, we are discussing the nature of recommendations we are going to be looking for
Right.
in all that we have been doing. I am not sure that one session probably will be enough. In a session, we can only sketch. All that we can do is sketch, because you'll find there are areas of contention that will last longer for us to agree on. So if we are going to be sketching on areas of recommendations to put in different areas that we worked on, that is fine. But we will take a little bit more meetings, either jointly or in separate entities, to go through all that, some material in a way, to just be in unison. So that's fine with me. We can do that, and we can just arrange on how we are going to go through those recommendations. Which areas do we need to talk? Which areas are fine? Which areas? And so that's okay.
And piggybacking
And I
on
would
that, it's continuous now. The recommendation part, we can't just come sit on 5th and I'm like, these are the recommendations. Yeah, it's continuous, even away from here, which, yeah, we keep working on them, you say, either separately or at meetings, so even individually.
Right, I think that, fingers crossed, the city council approves the extension, and we keep talking and refining the recommendations as we work with the report writer. Worst case scenario, we at least have started the conversation, and we'll continue the conversation on the 19th to see what we can do. Chastity,
And
I'm
I just
sorry.
want to say, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I agree with all of you, especially Commissioner Quiche. We should be organized in how we approach recommendations. I'm really thinking it'll be our first public brainstorming session to see how on the same page or not on the same page we all are. As always, encourage everyone to talk to people outside of meetings to also, get a feel for what everyone is thinking. But as we know with quorum laws, we can't just discuss it over email or anything like that. So we're going to have to hash things out, agreements and disagreements in person. So and then maybe from that we'll be able to figure out if there are structures like categories or things like that that would make it work best. Or we might find that we need to do some more research, or we have enough information. I don't really know because we haven't really had this conversation, and we should really we're hoping that the city council will give us an extension, but in reality we have 2 meetings with an option to do a special meeting any other time. So these are the 2 meetings that we have to come up with our recommendations unless city council gives us an extension. I just think we should keep that in mind.
I agree.
Yep. Any other discussion regarding agenda item number 5? If not, let's move to announcements of commissioners. Any? Going once, going twice.
Somebody's hand.
What's that music?
All right. Stephanie, any announcements from staff? Then, do I have
Move to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I move.
Seconded.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.